I always thought I was prepared. That's the first thing they drill into you during cave rescue training. Preparation saves lives. You train for collapses, flooding, broken ropes, and worst of all, recoveries. Most people don't realize it, but caves claim more lives than they give back. When the call comes in, you don't just train to pull people out alive. You train to pull them out dead, too. So yeah, I thought I was ready. Ready for tight squeezes, icy water, and even the sight of lifeless bodies lodged in stone cracks. But this cave, this one was different. And the horror waiting in its belly wasn't something any training could have prepared me for. It started with a call on a rain-heavy Thursday evening. The dispatcher's voice carried that clipped urgency that makes your stomach tighten before you even hear the details. A group of amateur spelunkers had gone missing in an uncharted section of the Windmere Caverns, a sprawling network in the mountains. They hadn't checked in for 36 hours. No cell signals had pinged. The local sheriff's department feared the worst. By the time my team assembled, night had swallowed the valley. Rain hissed against our helmets as headlights cut across the black forest road leading to the cave mouth. The entrance yawned like a jagged wound in the earth, black and dripping with runoff. I've seen hundreds of cave mouths before, but this one seemed different. Something about it seemed to pull at the eyes, like it was waiting to swallow us. We geared up in silence, the only sounds the shuffle of harnesses, the click of carabiners, and the hiss of oxygen checks. My partner, Ellis, broke the silence with his usual dark humor. "Bet they just got lost trying to find a bathroom down there," he muttered. I forced a chuckle, but deep down I knew better. A cave this old and this big didn't let people off with just a scare. Inside, the air shifted immediately. Warm, wet, and close. Our headlamps pierced only a fraction of the endless dark. The deeper we went, the more the forest sounds faded, until all that was left was the drip of water and the echo of our boots crunching gravel. We marked our trail, standard practice, clipping reflective tape along the rock. The passages wound downward like veins, twisting and narrowing until our movements became a slow crawl. At one point, I had to lie flat on my stomach and wiggle forward, my chest scraping the stone, heart thundering in my throat. That's when the first sign appeared. Ellis's light caught something on the wall. Not just mineral deposits. No, these were scratches. Deep gouges in the limestone, long and jagged, as if something had been dragged, or had clawed its way through. We exchanged a look, neither of us speaking. Cavers panic, they thrash, they dig at walls. We told ourselves it was that. But the marks were too deliberate. Too organized. 100 feet further in, we found the first body. She was wedged against a ledge, her arms twisted above her head as though she tried to claw herself upward. Her helmet was gone. Her face, God, her face, was frozen mid-scream, lips stretched back over broken teeth. Her eyes were gone. Just black hollows staring into nothing. I swallowed bile as Ellis knelt beside her, checking for ID. Amateur group, all right. College kids. His voice cracked. He pulled back, shaking his head. She didn't fall. Look at her hands. I looked. Her fingernails were broken down to bloody stubs. Not from climbing, but from tearing at her own face. We radioed back, logging the recovery. Standard procedure dictated we secure the body for extraction later, but something about the air told me to move faster. The cave felt charged. Like static before lightning. We pushed on. The second body wasn't far. A young man, slumped against the wall in a sitting position, as if he'd just given up. But his chest had been torn open, ribs splayed like a broken birdcage. No scavenger could have done it. There are no scavengers that deep underground. And the wound wasn't from rockfall. It was surgical, almost precise. Ellis cursed under his breath. His bravado was gone now, his voice smaller. "What the hell is this?" I didn't answer. I just kept moving. That's what you do down there. You move, you breathe, you don't think. The tunnels constricted again, and the air grew heavier. My light caught movement ahead, something slithering out of sight, fast. I froze. "Did you see that?" I whispered. Ellis nodded, pale beneath the glow. We told ourselves it was water. Just water shifting shadows. But we both knew water didn't move like that. When we found the third victim, my stomach dropped. This one wasn't dead long. His skin was pale but not stiff, his lips still faintly pink. He lay on his side, one arm stretched out as if pointing. But it wasn't his body that froze me, it was what he'd written. The walls around him were smeared with blood. Not random panic smears, but words. Shaky, frantic letters scrawled over and over. Don't follow the voices. The letters stretched in spirals across the limestone, dripping down into the mud. Ellis's breathing went ragged. Voices. What the hell? That's when I heard it. Soft, distant. A sound that didn't belong to water or stone. A whisper, carried through the tunnels, curling around my ears. I couldn't make out the words, but I felt them, tugging at something in the back of my mind. Ellis shook my shoulder. We need to go. Now. But I couldn't move. My body felt rooted, listening. The whisper rose, like a chorus, many voices speaking at once, overlapping. Some angry. Some pleading. Some familiar. I swear one of them sounded like my father, who had been dead for years. I blinked hard, breaking the spell. My chest heaved as I stumbled back. Keep moving, I rasped. We have to keep moving. We pressed deeper, though every instinct screamed to turn back. The whispers followed, slipping between echoes, always just out of reach. At times they sounded right behind us. At others, miles ahead. The cave was alive with them. Then we came to the chamber. It opened suddenly, a vast cathedral of stone with ceilings vanishing into black. Stalactites hung like teeth. Our lights barely scratched the surface of its enormity. And there, in the center of the floor, was a pit. A perfect circle carved into the rock, edges too smooth to be natural. Around the pit lay the rest of the missing group. 7 bodies, sprawled in unnatural positions, faces contorted in terror. Some had their throats ripped open. Others clutched their own heads, as if trying to tear something out of their minds. Ellis gagged, stumbling backward. Jesus Christ, all of them! I couldn't speak. My light trembled as I swung it toward the pit. Something moved in the darkness below. Not water. Not rockfall. Something shifting. The whispers swelled, louder now, echoing directly into my skull. They weren't warning us. They were inviting us. I staggered back, pulling Ellis with me. But as I turned, my light caught something on the wall of the chamber. More words, smeared in blood. Not by panicked hands, but deliberate. It doesn't stay in the pit. The sound that followed wasn't a whisper. It was a growl, low and deep, rising from below. Something vast began to climb. And in that moment, I knew 2 things. 1, the college kids hadn't just died, they'd been fed. And 2, our rescue training had never prepared us for this. I should have run the moment I read those words on the wall. It doesn't stay in the pit. Every instinct screamed at me to retreat, to claw my way back through the tunnels and never look over my shoulder. But the thing about caves is, they trap you. Once you're in, you're in. You can't just sprint for daylight, not when jagged stone funnels you into choke points and crawl spaces where panic is as deadly as any monster. The growl rose again, vibrating through the chamber floor. Dust rained down from the ceiling, settling into my eyes and mouth. Ellis froze beside me, white as chalk, his breath rasping against his regulator. "Tell me that's just water," he whispered. But I couldn't lie, not this time. "No," I croaked. "It's not." Then came the smell. It drifted up from the pit, thick and cloying. Not rot. Not the clean mineral tang of whetstone. This was different. Sweet, almost, like spoiled fruit left too long in the sun. It turned my stomach in an instant, and Ellis gagged into his mask. We edged backward, keeping our lights trained on the pit. Something shifted again below, and for a moment I caught a glimpse, just a sliver, of what was climbing. A hand. Or what passed for one. It wasn't flesh, not really. The surface shimmered like wet stone slicked with oil, fingers too long, joints bending in ways they shouldn't. The nails were more like talons, clicking against the rock as it dragged itself higher. Ellis snapped. "We're leaving." He grabbed my harness and yanked me toward the tunnel. We scrambled across the chamber floor, boots crunching over broken helmets and snapped ropes. Behind us, The whispers swelled into a cacophony, 1,000 voices shrieking and pleading and laughing all at once. They weren't just in the air anymore, they were inside my skull, clawing for space, pushing into my thoughts. Don't go. Say. Feed us. Join us. I bit my tongue until blood filled my mouth, anything to drown out the voices. The tunnel mouth loomed ahead. We scrambled in, lights bouncing wildly over slick stone. The chamber's glow faded behind us, replaced by the suffocating press of the passage. I thought we'd made it, until the sound followed. Not whispers. Not growls. Crawling. It scraped against the limestone walls, talons dragging, stone splitting. The tunnel shook with each pull of its limbs. Ellis swore under his breath, climbing faster, his helmet smacking rock as he squeezed into a crawlspace. I shoved after him, ribs scraping, my pack catching on jagged edges. Then came the scream. It wasn't human. Not even close. It tore through the tunnels, rattling my bones, making my ears bleed. My lamp flickered with a vibration, plunging us into a strobe of shadow and light. And in that flicker, I saw it. Behind me. Filling the chamber mouth. Its head scraped the ceiling, faceless except for a wide, gaping maw of teeth. Not teeth like ours, too many, too sharp, layered deep like a shark's. Its body was wrong, rippling like wet clay, limbs sprouting where they shouldn't, retracting, reshaping. And its eyes. God, I wish it hadn't had eyes. They weren't set in its face but scattered across its body, glowing faintly like coals. Each one blinked separately, fixing on me, on Ellis, on the blood we'd left smeared on the walls. I shoved forward, scraping skin off my elbows, heart hammering loud enough to drown everything else. Ellis was ahead, cursing, grunting, kicking. Somehow, we squeezed through into another passage, wider, sloping downward. Wrong way. Ellis shouted. This drops deeper. I didn't care. Behind us, the thing forced itself into the crawlspace, stones splintering around it. The sound of breaking rock was deafening. We slid down the slope, tumbling into a narrow gallery. Water dripped from the ceiling, pooling around our boots. The smell grew stronger, suffocating. And then, silence. Ellis and I froze, lamps scanning the shadows. The crawling had stopped. The whispers faded to a murmur. Is it gone? Ellis whispered. The answer came from above. A drop of liquid hit my helmet. I tilted my light upward. The ceiling wasn't stone anymore. It was flesh. Black, glistening, pulsing flesh stretched across the rock like a membrane. And embedded in it, God help me, were faces. Hundreds of them. They bulged out of the slick surface, some screaming silently, others mouthing words I couldn't hear. Their eyes darted in every direction, following us. Some were fresh, skin still whole, lips still wet. Others had been there for decades, rotted down to bone fused with the black meat. All of them alive in some way, twitching, writhing, trapped. Ellis staggered back, slipped in the water, and screamed. His voice echoed, bouncing off the chamber walls, and in that moment, the membrane rippled, like it heard him, like it hungered. The whispers returned, louder, pouring from every mouth in the ceiling. Some begged for help. Some begged for death. Others laughed. I grabbed Ellis, yanking him to his feet. Move. We ran. The gallery funneled into another corridor, narrower but passable. Our boots splashed in ankle-deep water as the voices chased us, echoing down the stone, growing louder, closer. Then the floor gave out. 1 second I was running, the next I was falling. The ground crumbled, plunging me into black water so cold it punched the air from my lungs. My helmet cracked against something hard, sending stars across my vision. I flailed, kicking upward, breaking the surface with a gasp. Ellis landed beside me, sputtering. His light bobbed wildly, illuminating the cavern around us. We were in some kind of underground river, the current pulling fast, sweeping us deeper. Swim! I shouted, though there was nowhere to go but with the current. We thrashed, fighting to keep our heads above water as the river carried us into another chamber. My lamp barely pierced the spray, but I saw enough. More bodies. Dozens of them, half submerged, floating like debris. Their limbs tangled together, eyes wide open, mouths still moving in silent screams. The current shoved us past them, their hands brushing against us as if trying to pull us under. Ellis lost it. He screamed, thrashing, trying to shove the corpses away. One of them grabbed his arm, not alive, not dead, just moving. He ripped free, howling, and for a moment I thought he'd drown himself. Then the river spat us out into a calmer pool, deep in another chamber. We crawled out onto slick rock, coughing, shivering, our lights dimming with water damage. My lungs burned, my chest ached, but I didn't care. We were alive. But the silence didn't last. From the far side of the pool, something rose. Not the monster. Not yet. This was different. It was one of the college kids. Or what was left of him. His skin was pale and stretched thin, veins black as ink. His jaw hung at an impossible angle, eyes wide and glowing faintly. He moved stiffly, like a puppet on strings, water pouring from his mouth with each step. Ellis scrambled back. No, that's impossible. The thing lurched closer, mouth opening. And when it spoke, it wasn't his voice. It was all of them. The whispers, the chorus, pouring out of one throat. You shouldn't have come. I yanked my knife free, hand shaking. The thing staggered forward, arms reaching. Not fast, but steady. Relentless. I didn't think, I just drove the blade into its chest. It didn't scream. It didn't bleed. It just kept walking, knife buried to the hilt. The whispers swelled, shaking the chamber. Ellis pulled his sidearm, a last resort we weren't supposed to use underground, and fired. The shot cracked like thunder, deafening in the enclosed space. The thing's head snapped back, half its skull gone. It collapsed into the pool with a splash. For a moment, silence. Then the water around the body rippled. Dozens of hands broke the surface. Not corpses this time, arms. Writhing, grasping, pulling themselves up. Ellis's eyes went wide. We're dead. We're already dead. No, I snapped, grabbing him. We move. We keep moving. We scrambled toward another passage, slipping on wet stone, boots pounding. Behind us, the water boiled with shapes dragging themselves free, their whispers rising to screams. The tunnel narrowed again, pressing us into another crawl. My shoulders wedged tight, lungs burning as I clawed forward. Behind me, Ellis grunted, swore, shoved. And then, silence again. No crawling. No whispers. No water. Just the sound of our own ragged breathing. For a moment, I thought maybe we'd outrun it. Maybe we'd lost them. Then Ellis froze. His helmet light flickered across the wall ahead. Words. Fresh, wet, written in something darker than mud. "It knows your names," Ellis whispered, trembling. "How the hell does it?" From the black ahead, a voice spoke. Not a whisper this time. Clear. Familiar. It said my name. The voice came from the dark ahead, low and steady, carrying through the narrow tunnel like it had been waiting for me. It spoke my name. Not screamed. Not whispered. Just spoken, as if it knew me. Ellis jerked his head toward me, eyes wide, the beam of his lamp bouncing across the rock. Did you hear that?" I didn't answer. My throat had closed up, heart hammering so hard it felt like it might burst. The voice echoed again, clearer this time. "Daniel." It wasn't just my name. It was my father's voice. Ellis stammered, shaking his head. No. That's not possible. He's dead. You told me he was dead." "He is," I hissed. My fingernails dug into the stone, anchoring myself to the here and now. My father had been dead for nearly 12 years. I'd buried him myself. And yet, that voice, his voice, was crawling through the tunnels, wrapping around my ears, coiling in my chest. Another sound followed, dripping water, except it wasn't water. The rhythm was too steady, like footsteps. Slow, deliberate, closing in. Ellis shoved at me. "We have to move, Daniel." "No." I forced my body forward, scraping knees and elbows against jagged stone. The tunnel bent sharply, funneling us downward into another gallery. As soon as we dropped inside, I felt it. The air shifted. Thick, heavy, charged like a storm. My lamp swept across the walls, and my stomach flipped. Faces. Hundreds of them, carved deep into the limestone. Not painted. Not scratched. Carved. Each one different, each one screaming or grinning or weeping. Their hollow eyes seemed to follow us, their mouths twisted in agony. But this wasn't the work of human hands. The cuts were too raw, too jagged, too deep. Ellis muttered, "Jesus Christ, they're everywhere." He wasn't wrong. The walls, the floor, even the ceiling was etched with them. Layers of faces, overlapping, pressing in from every side. Some of them looked fresh, like the stone itself had softened to let them through. And then one of them moved. At first, I thought it was a trick of the lamp. But no, the lips of a stone face parted, slow and deliberate, as if stretching unused muscles. A wet sound echoed, and then it spoke. "Daniel!" Ellis screamed, stumbling back. His light swept the gallery, catching more movement. More mouths opening. One by one, the faces came alive. Their stone lips peeled back, their hollow eyes blinking, and a chorus of voices filled the chamber. Some laughed. Some cried. Some begged. And some called Ellis's name. He collapsed to his knees, clutching his ears. "Make it stop! Oh God, make it stop!" I grabbed his harness, yanking him up. "Don't listen. Don't look. Just move." But it was impossible not to. The walls seemed to ripple as the faces pulled themselves free. Their features bulged outward, stretching from the rock, trying to crawl into the gallery with us. Hands formed from the stone, brittle and jagged, reaching. One of them caught Ellis's sleeve. The fabric tore as sharp fingers raked across his arm. He screamed, blood welling as I pulled him free. We bolted across the gallery, slipping on wet stone, the chorus rising behind us. I could feel them reaching, tugging at my thoughts, filling my head with voices that weren't mine. One voice cut through the rest. "My father's. Why didn't you save me, Daniel?" I staggered, knees buckling. He was gone. He died in his sleep, peaceful, natural. And yet, the guilt I'd carried, the things left unsaid, crashed over me. The cave knew. It was digging into the wounds I'd buried. Ellis yanked me forward, dragging me out of the gallery into another tunnel. His face was pale, streaked with blood and sweat. "Don't stop. You hear me? Don't you ever stop." We crawled until the voices dulled, until only the drip of water remained. But the silence wasn't comforting anymore. It was a trap, and I knew it. The tunnel widened into a low cavern, the ceiling so close it brushed our helmets. Pools of black water dotted the floor, reflecting our lights like broken mirrors. The smell was worse here, metallic and rotten, seeping from every crack. I bent down to check my gear, hands trembling. That's when I saw it. Footprints. Not ours. Not boots. Bare, human-like, but warped. The toes were too long, arched wrong, pressed too deep into the mud. Dozens of them, leading in every direction. Some vanished into the pools. Others climbed the walls, as if gravity didn't matter. Ellis followed my gaze and swore. "It's hunting us." I didn't argue. We pressed on, moving between the pools. The mud sucked at our boots, pulling us down with every step. My lamp flickered again, sparks spitting from the wet casing. Then, a ripple. The water in the nearest pool shifted, though we hadn't touched it. A bubble rose, followed by another. Then, a hand broke the surface. Not like before. Not stone. Not puppet flesh. This one was small. Delicate. A child's hand. Ellis froze. No. Another followed. A head. A face. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, hair plastered to her skull, eyes wide and glowing faintly. She rose silently, water streaming from her mouth. I felt ice in my chest. She looked so real. So alive. Then she spoke. Not in a whisper. Not in a chorus. Just a single, trembling voice. "Help me." Ellis moved before I could stop him. He dropped to his knees at the pool's edge, reaching out. "Oh God, we can't just leave her." "Ellis, no." I shouted, grabbing for him. But I was too slow. The girl's face split. Her mouth tore open from ear to ear, jaws unhinging into a gaping black maw lined with teeth like broken glass. She lunged, dragging Ellis into the pool. He screamed, thrashing, water exploding upward as he disappeared beneath the surface. I dove after him, hands plunging into the black. My fingers brushed his harness, but something else wrapped around him first. Dozens of arms, pale and slick, pulling him deeper. His light flickered, spun, vanished. The pool stilled. I was left alone. My breath came in short, ragged gasps. The silence pressed down, heavier than the rock above. My lamp flickered weakly, shadows dancing across the walls. And then the whisper returned. Not a chorus this time. Just one voice. My father's. Come closer, Daniel. I'll keep you safe. I backed away from the pool, legs shaking. Every part of me screamed to run, to get out, to leave Ellis and the others behind. But I couldn't. If I left now, the cave would keep me forever. I pressed on, deeper into the tunnel. The walls closed in, tighter and tighter, until I had to crawl on my belly, dragging myself through mud and water. My lamp sputtered, dimming with every inch. Ahead, the tunnel opened again. A faint light glowed, warm, golden, like sunlight. Impossible this far underground, but there it was. I crawled faster, heart pounding with desperate hope. Maybe there was a way out. Maybe this nightmare had an end. But as I pulled myself into the chamber, I realized the truth. The light wasn't sunlight. It was fire. Dozens of torches lined the walls, burning without smoke, casting the cavern in a hellish glow. And in the center stood a stone altar, slick with blood. Around it knelt figures, human shapes, cloaked and hooded, their bodies unmoving. For a heartbeat, I thought they were rescuers. Survivors. But then one of them turned, and I saw its face. Not human. Not stone. Something in between. Flesh stretched thin over jagged bone, eyes glowing faintly. Its mouth opened, and the whispers spilled out again, louder than ever. I stumbled back, choking on the sound. The cloaked figures rose in unison, their heads turning toward me. And from the altar, something stirred. A shape. Huge. Shifting. Crawling. The thing from the pit. It hadn't been trapped. It had been worshipped. The voices crashed over me, louder than my thoughts, louder than my screams. And through it all, my father's voice whispered one last time. You belong to us now. The altar pulsed like a living organ, blood dripping from its surface into channels carved in the stone floor. The liquid trickled outward, branching like veins, seeping toward the cloaked figures who stood in a silent circle. I couldn't breathe. The heat from the torchlight pressed against my skin, but the air itself was cold, unnaturally cold, the kind that sank into bone. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but the tunnel behind me was gone. Literally gone. I turned and found nothing but raw rock, sealed as if it had never been there. The figures moved in unison. One by one, they lifted their heads, revealing the nightmare beneath the hoods. Their faces weren't just distorted, they were in flux. Flesh rippled like water, eyes shifting across their skulls, mouth sliding from chin to cheek to forehead. They weren't human anymore. Maybe they once had been, but the cave had remade them into something else. Something that belonged to it. They began to hum. Low, deep, rhythmic. The sound vibrated through the chamber, rattling the torches, shaking the blood-slick altar. And then I saw him. Ellis. He was on the altar. His body was sprawled across the stone, arms stretched out, chest rising and falling shallowly. He was alive, but barely. His helmet was gone, face pale and wet, eyes darting frantically as he saw me. Daniel. His voice cracked, ragged. Get me out. Please. The cloaked figures didn't stop him. They didn't even seem to notice. Their heads stayed bowed, their hum rising into a drone. I staggered forward, but froze as the whispers surged again. This time they weren't coming from the figures or the altar. They came from the cavern itself, from the walls, the floor, the air. He's ours. He chose. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it didn't matter. The voices weren't around me, they were inside me. Ellis screamed again, louder this time. His chest arched off the stone as though something beneath the surface was pulling him down. His skin rippled unnaturally, bulging in places like something was crawling beneath. I stumbled closer, fighting the pressure of the whispers. My legs felt like they were moving through syrup, every step harder than the last. The cloaked figures raised their arms in unison. Their hum became words, syllables I didn't recognize, guttural and sharp, tearing through the chamber like blades. The torches flared brighter, and the altar shuddered. From beneath Ellis, the stone cracked. A fissure split the altar in two, glowing faintly red. The blood on its surface hissed, boiling, seeping into the crack. Ellis screamed louder, thrashing, but the cloaked figures pinned him with invisible force. His limbs jerked, bones snapping as he was bent unnaturally flat against the altar. The whispers surged again. Louder. Clearer. And this time, they weren't speaking to Ellis. They were speaking to me. Take his place. I froze, bile rising in my throat. The voices overlapped, coaxing, promising. Give yourself. End it. Spare him. Ellis's eyes locked on mine, wide and terrified. Daniel. Don't listen. Please. But the whispers pressed harder. Images filled my head, Ellis torn apart, his soul ripped into the walls, his voice joining the endless chorus forever. If I took his place, if I gave myself willingly, maybe it would end. Maybe the cave would spare him. I took a step forward. My legs shook. My knife trembled in my hand. Then something else cut through the noise. Not whispers. Not voices. A memory. The first day of rescue training. The instructor's words echoing, "In the dark, panic will lie to you. The cave will tell you you're trapped, but it's not true. There's always a way out. Always." I clenched my teeth, forcing the words into my skull, louder than the whispers. There's always a way out. The figures hissed in unison, their chant faltering. The altar cracked wider. Ellis shrieked as blood poured into the fissure. And then it rose. The thing from the pit. It crawled up through the altar itself, limbs unfolding, body reforming as it dragged itself free. Its eyes, those endless, scattered, glowing eyes, fixed on me. Its maw gaped wide, dripping black saliva, and it spoke without moving its mouth. Daniel. I stumbled back, my light faltering. My father's voice again, but now warped, stretched, layered with countless others. It wasn't just mimicking him, it was wearing him. Using him as bait. Ellis screamed, voice breaking. Kill me. Don't let it take me. I froze. My knife felt like dead weight in my hand. I couldn't. God, I couldn't. The creature shifted closer, dragging its body across the stone, filling the chamber with its stench. The cloaked figures bowed lower, chanting again, louder, faster. The blood flowed in rivers now, soaking the altar, soaking Ellis. I knew what was happening. They weren't worshipping it. They were feeding it. The voices in my skull grew deafening. My father's voice begged. My mother's voice cried. Ellis's voice screamed. Every memory, every guilt, every buried sin was ripped out and hurled back at me. And then something broke. Not in the cave. In me. I screamed. A raw, guttural sound, tearing from my chest as I charged the altar. The knife plunged down, not into Ellis, not into myself, but into the fissure itself. The effect was instant. The torches extinguished. The chanting figures shrieked, their bodies convulsing as the stone faces on their flesh twisted and writhed. The altar cracked wider, splitting down the middle. A blast of heat and air knocked me backward, slamming me into the cavern wall. The creature roared, a sound so loud it split my eardrums. Its body convulsed, limbs thrashing, eyes blinking out one by one. The fissure beneath it glowed brighter, pulling at everything in the chamber. The cloaked figures were the first to go. They screamed as they were dragged into the crack, their bodies folding, shattering, vanishing into the light. Ellis's bindings broke. He slid toward the fissure, clawing at the altar, screaming my name. I lunged, grabbing his arm, pulling with everything I had. His skin was slick with blood, his body shaking violently. Don't let go. I screamed. The pull grew stronger. Rocks tumbled into the fissure. The creature shrieked again, half its body already dragged inside. It clawed at the stone, talons carving deep gouges, but the pull was merciless. Ellis slipped. My grip faltered. Daniel! He screamed, his eyes wide, his face twisted in terror. And then he was gone. The fissure sealed shut with a thunderous crack, cutting off the light, the roar, the pull. Silence fell. The chamber was gone. The altar, the figures, the creature, all gone. Only bare rock remained, smooth and unbroken, as if none of it had ever been real. I collapsed onto the cold stone, gasping, blood dripping from my ears and nose. My lamp flickered once, twice, then died, leaving me in complete darkness. The silence pressed in. Heavy. Crushing. And then, whispers. Not a chorus. Just one voice. Ellis. You should have let me die. The cave swallowed me in silence. A silence so complete, it pressed against my skull like a weight. My lamp was dead, my backup too, and the emergency glow stick in my pack had shattered in the fall. There was no light left, only the black, suffocating dark. But the dark wasn't empty. Ellis's voice lingered. Faint, echoing in places where there shouldn't have been echoes. You should have let me die. I pressed my palms over my ears, curling into the stone, whispering to myself that it wasn't real. It couldn't be real. The altar was gone. The fissure sealed. Ellis was. I couldn't say it. My throat closed on the word. I staggered to my feet, hand trailing the wall for balance. Every step scraped stone under my boots, the sound too loud, too fragile in the vast dark. My training screamed at me, mark your path. Keep your bearings. Trust your touch. But the cave was different now. It shifted beneath my fingers. Stone that should have been solid rippled like water, slick with something warm that pulsed faintly. The whispers followed me, weaving through the corridors. Ellis's voice wasn't alone anymore. My father's voice joined him. My mother. People I'd lost. People I'd tried to save. They all spoke, layered over one another, but Ellis was always the loudest. You failed me. You left me. You chose yourself. I pressed forward anyway, half stumbling, half running. The tunnels curved and forked, but I didn't recognize any of them. The markings I'd made earlier were gone, erased, the rock smooth as untouched clay. I don't know how long I walked. Minutes. Hours. Days. My body ached, my mouth dry, blood crusted in my ears. Hunger gnawed, thirst burned. The dark didn't change. The whispers didn't stop. Until they did. I froze, disoriented by the sudden absence. The silence pressed harder, crushing, absolute. My breath came ragged, chest heaving. And then, light. Faint at first, seeping through a crack in the stone ahead. Not torchlight, not the eerie red glow of the fissure. Pale, soft, natural. Daylight. I stumbled forward, my body surging with desperate energy. My fingers dug into the crack, prying, scraping stone from the wall. The gap widened, and fresh air hit me like salvation. Cool, clean, carrying scents of pine and earth. I pulled myself through, and emerged outside. I collapsed onto the grass, the sun blinding after so long in the dark. The warmth sank into my skin, too soft, too unreal. I lay there gasping, staring at the sky until my vision adjusted. Birds circled overhead. Trees swayed in the wind. The world was alive again. I laughed, ragged, broken. Somehow, against all odds, I'd made it out. But the laugh died quickly. Because the forest around me wasn't the same one I'd entered. The trees were twisted, their branches curling in unnatural spirals. The sky wasn't blue, it was a pale, washed-out gray, the sun a white disk that gave no heat. The birds circling overhead weren't birds at all. Their wings bent wrong, their bodies too long, their faces. I shut my eyes. I couldn't look. A voice spoke behind me. Daniel. I froze. My body went rigid. Slowly, I turned. Ellis stood at the cave mouth. His helmet gone, his face pale, eyes black as tar. His lips stretched into a smile that didn't belong to him. You left me, he said. His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't pleading. It was calm. Too calm. I stumbled backward, shaking my head. I tried to save you. He stepped forward. The ground beneath his boots rippled like water. You chose yourself. Just like you always do. I tried to run, but the forest twisted, paths looping, trees bending to block me. No matter which way I turned, Ellis was there. Always in front of me. Always smiling. "Do you know what this place is?" he asked, tilting his head. "It's not outside. It's not freedom. It's the cave, Daniel. It always was. It always will be." My chest heaved. "No, no, I got out. I'm out." Ellis's smile widened. His teeth were too many, too sharp. "There's no out. You gave yourself to it the moment you stepped inside. The bodies you trained to recover? They were never bodies. They were offerings. And now, so are you." The forest dissolved. The sky peeled away. The twisted trees bled back into stone. I was standing in the chamber again. The altar returned. The fissure glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. And Ellis was still on it. Alive. Bound. Screaming. I staggered backward, shaking, clutching my head. "No. I saw you die. I saw it seal." The whispers returned, louder than ever. "You saw what we wanted you to see." Ellis's face contorted, eyes rolling white. His chest split open, ribs snapping, flesh peeling back like wet fabric. From inside him, the creature rose again, towering, endless, dripping with black ichor. Its eyes filled the chamber, each one blinking open to stare directly at me. "There is no rescue," it said in my father's voice. "Only joining." The fissure yawned wide, glowing brighter, pulling at me again. The air howled, the ground shook. I clawed at the stone, fingers bleeding, but the pull was relentless. I screamed, a raw, desperate sound. Not for help. There was no help. Not for Ellis. He was gone. Not even for myself. I screamed because I understood. The training had been wrong. There isn't always a way out. Sometimes the cave doesn't trap you. Sometimes it chooses you. And it had chosen me. The fissure swallowed me whole. I don't remember the fall. I don't remember the impact. Only the dark. The endless, suffocating dark. The whispers never stopped. They never will. Because I am one of them now. And if you ever crawl into the earth, deeper than you should, you'll hear me too.